200.
Take one.
The concept, sort of ludicrous as it first sounds, is a group of young offenders with ASBOs who are brought together by that common denominator, who get struck by lightning.
It's a bit different to everything else, and it's got quite a lot of balls.
You don't know what kind of dynamic you're going to strike with the rest of the people until you get into a room and start rehearsing and start working.
Yeah, the casting process for Misfits was very widespread. Our casting director, Julie Harkin, did a sweep of the country. I think she went through over 2,000 suggestions from agents, but she also did a very extensive search of youth drama groups, television workshops, that type of thing. Whilst the casting process was always led by finding the best actor for the character, Misfits is a gang show, and we had to find our bunch of misfits.
Tom Green, the first director, he really worked it and wanted to see who got on with what and the dynamic and stuff, so it was quite detailed.
But Robert Sheehan with Lauren Socker, plays Nathan and Kelly respectively, and such different actors, and to put those together, there was a sparks flew, and you could all of a sudden see that there was a chemistry between them, and that was really exciting to watch. So we're always looking for that dynamic within our casting as well as just the individual.
My name is Nathan Stewart-Jarrett, and I play Curtis.
Nathan, again, isn't that long out of drama school, but quite an experienced stage actor in many ways, and I think Curtis offered him a very different role in a way. He played not too long ago, he played a drag queen, so I think to move to quite a sort of testosterone-fueled, sort of pumped-up athlete who'd spent his life training and in a sort of macho world, I think was a different character for Nathan to play.
Because he's a runner and I'm not a runner. I did run at school and stuff, but I stopped and just get older in it, so can't keep it up. So I went running. I
think what he does with Curtis again is just shifts that stereotype and challenges it, and brings us a load of issues around Curtis's life that you aren't connected to athletics, and he's not just a stereotypical athlete who has only got his training and his sport to talk about.
Curtis is very driven. He's greatly ambitious, and what really upsets him about is he's ultimately very disappointed about what's happened to him and who he is and what he's become.
He's had his sort of dignity in his life and his dreams stripped from him, and he's sort of having to start amongst friends and people that he may not have sort of associated himself with before, and finds himself sort of forming relationships and friendships he might not have otherwise had.
And his superpower is that he can turn back time, but only when he feels the regret. So it's kind of an emotional, it's connected to his emotions, his power. But he can turn back time and come back actually as well. And
I think you need the sort of slightly fatherly quality of Curtis in some respects, the slight more maturity of his character, to allow all our other slightly madder elements of the show to sort of have a kinetic and fun sort of energy around him.
If I can have it's a very original question. If I could have a superpower in real life, I'm caught. I think I'd be a shapeshifter. I think it'd be quite fun, but like a shapeshifter in a way that I can take on any shape, whether that be human or an inanimate object. So I can change my size as well. So I could be a dinosaur or a toy car, or just like anything that can take any shape. I think that's actually my favourite now. I've gone into depth with that. Or I want it to turn into a gas.
My name is Lauren Socker, and the character name has this kind of love-hate relationship with Nathan, that she fancies him and he fancies her, but they're never really an item together, so it's a little bit confusing for them. But yeah, she's such a little teenager.
She's a phenomenally sort of instinctive actor, and she's very, very funny. She's an amazing girl with like so much sort of spirit and fight and humour about her, and I think she brought that to Kelly.
I wanted the part from the moment that I read the script. I worked really hard to do everything that I could to try and get the part. I was just very happy. I wanted it badly.
And on the page sometimes I don't think Kelly always read as funny, and that's what you're always looking for from an actor, someone to come in the room and make you think of the character in a whole new way, and that's exactly what Lauren did with Kelly for us, and she was a real find and really exciting, and I think brings a real great sort of gutsy humour to Misfits.
The guest character, Jodie,
uses her superpower on Kelly and turns her bald, which of course is a bit of a rubbish superpower, as Nathan says in the episode.
Then it takes like 2.5 hours to put on the bald cap doors. But that was dead funny as well, because everyone thinks, oh, I wonder what I look like bald, and I was bald. It was just the most funniest thing I've ever seen myself do, literally. The way that they flattened my hair out, so you couldn't see no lumps of my hair, was amazing. That was dead funny as well.
Oh, I like your cap.
If I could have a superpower, it would be to be invisible. Invisible, because I could just see what everyone does when I'm not there.
My name's Iwan and I play the character of Simon.
I'm not a panty sniffer. I'm not a pervert.
With Iwan Rheon, he is, again, a phenomenally talented actor. I find him magnetic, is the sort of word I use for him. He has these eyes. There's a close-up in episode 1 where we hold the close-up and it is sort of, you think you might be hypnotised by the end of the shot. He just finished Spring Awakening, which was a huge hit musical in the West End here, and I think he'd had a bit of Beatles mania off the back of that, where they'd been locked in on the last night because the girls were hammering down the door to get at him. And as soon as he walked in the room, for me, I knew we'd found Simon. I worked really hard with Iwan and creating a very sort of interesting character that had a real darkness about him, and that wasn't a stereotypical geek, but someone who perhaps was one of the more interesting characters in the gang.
He's disappeared!
With an ability for real sort of light and shade in his character. And I think as the series goes on, Simon really comes out of his shell and becomes a sort of anti-hero of his own, really.
Simon's power is he can turn invisible, and I think all the powers in Misfits sort of come from a part of their personality. I absolutely hate all the Misfits cast. I can't stand them. They made my life a living hell. I think that's one of the great things about it. We all get along really well, and I think that'll come across on screen. And we just kind of quite often just, you know, it's quite a light atmosphere on set. You know, it's not too serious, and we all get to just kind of, you know, I suppose express ourselves. Like, it sounds a bit cheesy. We just kind of get to do our own thing, because I think we've all been cast quite well. And it just means that we've got quite a nice dynamic together, I think. And we all have a lot of fun and get on really well, and yeah, we're gonna miss them, man.
Oh, she's finished now.
We're gonna put you out of business. You're making us all look bad.
I think immortality would be pretty rubbish one to have, because I think after a while you would probably get bored of living, as great as it would be to live for ages, but I think, you know, it'd be pretty bad to watch everyone grow old and die. Yeah, not to bring the vibe down or anything.
Hi, my name's Antonia Thomas, and I play the character of Alicia in Misfits.
Do I suck or blow?
600, take one.
Yeah.
So again, on the page, you know, Alicia's character could have read one way, and she was just all sex, sex, sex. She was, you know, quite a low-down, dirty girl, really. But in a way, I think, you know, Antonia brings a much more complex character to her. There's much more vulnerability about Alicia now.
Alicia is quite a difficult young lady. She's quite a kind of a princessy character who has been very, very spoiled by her parents and had sort of everything that she wanted. Kind of meaning that she sort of went off the rails and is very into partying and drugs and drinking.
It's insane, I'm totally working.
She develops a power where when men touch her, they grow very lustful towards her. A bit of a difficult power, one that she can't control at all, and it turns out to be very frustrating.
She, you know, I think handles the sort of personal problems that comes with that really adeptly, and out of that comes a really interesting sort of way of looking at, you know, relationships and sex, and I think she handles that really well. And again, just brought another depth and layer and complexity to the character. I think the other thing to say about Antonia is that it was her very first job out of drama school. She was actually in her graduation play, I think in the matinee, when she got the call from her agent to say that she'd got the part. I think she probably nearly passed out with excitement and had to call her back once she'd sort of pulled herself together and realised that she was going to do it.
I really like the power of, I don't know if you ever saw the programme Alice Mack, which was on telly years ago, where she used to be able to kind of turn herself into this liquid form and then kind of, I don't know, get under doors and go into weird gaps and then sort of reform into her human self again, which I thought was an amazing power. So I reckon I quite like that.
My name is Robert Archibald Sheehan, and I play Nathan.
Me? I was done for eating some picken wings.
Bollocks.
3:33, take 3. Second sticks. That's borderline racism.
Robert Sheehan probably is Robert Sheehan's probably the most experienced of our Misfits, and I think in a way finding Nathan's character was kind of in a way for us finding the voice for the humour of the show as well.
My character is basically like a James Bond figure with a wank sock, and he's the mouthy one of the group, I suppose you can say. The slightly more intolerable one. Intolerable because his sense of humour becomes so annoying and so irritating after a while that it's hard to be in his company.
Nathan, prick.
Nathan is a very dominant character in the series, and his comedy does often lead. And I think once we'd seen that coming from Robert so clearly and effectively, you could really see how the show was gonna sort of shake out really and come together.
We owe it to ourselves to party hard. We owe it to each other.
Looking amongst yourselves as well.
And this is it. This is our time. Yes, some of us will overdose or go mental. Charles Darwin says you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs.
My initial impression when I first read the script was, what a pile of garbage. But then they assured me that it was good. And, since I can't trust my own taste, I went with theirs. And here I am, 11 and a half weeks later.
Ask him, is he any good at table tennis?
As all the cast and crew of Misfits know, I'm the best at table tennis. And the man holding my head may think he's the best, but he's not. He's just a very close second. Not even close, a distant dot of a second.
Did you ever win against him?
Yes, once. I would have the power to make people take out their genitals in public. And then so when they snapped back into themselves, they'd be really embarrassed.
Parkington, 554, take 2.
Nice. Classic.
It was epic. Like, it was epic to the point that we didn't really believe it was happening.
It hurt running around all for hours and hours and hours. We did it from like 8 o'clock in the morning to like 7 o'clock at night.
We were like, oh, wow, like, the ice in my ear, and it's just, it was amazing.
I mean, everyone was there, sort of with these massive buckets of ice, sort of ready to hurl them at us. And we were like, oh my god, are you serious? Because we thought it was all going to be kind of, I don't know, CGI'd in.
So we were just sort of all running, and then there was people on the terraces chucking massive chunks of ice at us, and it was really funny. We were just sort of running, getting smacked by ice and stuff.
Misfits is shot quite quickly, but the the ice storm and lightning strike were so integral to the conception of Misfits that we wanted to spend the right amount of time achieving that as well as we possibly could. And so we shot for 2 days the ice storm.
Was knackering, but very funny and very good to work with, and it was real because we never rehearsed it. It was just the ice that would come out of it was all real. It was really an ice storm to us, and getting bombed with ice at us was dead funny. It was just wicked.
Obviously, a key element to the location there is the water, and it was really exciting the idea of water splashing up as the ice blocks landed, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that because there was a moorhen nesting at the time, and I think also there was worries that we might kill some fish, so we had to think of another way of achieving that, and when we developed this idea with the special effects company of high compressed air shooting water out of cannons from the side, which some again have been painted out by CGI afterwards and some are hidden behind walls at the location and so on, and essentially gives the sort of impact that I was really keen to achieve of these blocks smashing into the water and showering our gang in elements and water. And so as the actors ran past, I think to be honest I underplayed a little bit to them the impacts of these cannons, and so I think some of their screams and shouts are quite genuine as the cannon sort of fired off next to them as they ran and showered them in water. I wanted to smash a car, and we thought it would be fun to smash Tony, our probation worker's car, which was a nice sort of story element and character element to the sequence. But we worked with special effects company in rigging his old Saab to sort of already pre-collapse the roof. So when we had pulley systems which ran under the car and were pulled away on a tow truck at high speed, so we had the full weight of a truck actually compressing the car, because it was really important for me to feel that the impact on that car was really severe and was a hell of a shock.
I'm going to give a countdown, 3, 2, 1, that's a special effect, no one there yet until you hear the crash, okay? And over to you, 3, 2, 1, action!
So that was the sort of first element we worked on, and then we wanted a sort of build of a rhythm to these ice blocks landing, so worked on having the bin be hit, and again that had explosives rigged within the bin and elements flying out that was enhanced by our CGI company and wires which pulled the bin quite abruptly and severely to give it a good sharp impact as its next assignment, and they were painted out afterwards by CGI.
3, 2, 1,
Just like that. That's a good thing. You want this all further back?
3, 2, 1! 3, 2, 1, action! I'm going to go all the way to the car exploding, okay? And everyone set? 3, 2, 1, bang!
Oh, what's that? It's my car.
Oh my God. Oh, yes, I'm a little bit freaked out.
What is that?
And then similarly we had explosives rigged on the phone box as Kelly and Simon are running past that. The charges blow right next to them, and then we painted in an ice block hitting the phone box itself. So often it was a case of us developing the objects that were to explode, and then the CGI sort of joining the dots in a way, and the ice blocks landing just at that point of impact. So it was a real combination of special and physical effects, and then CGI enhancement of that.
And 3, 2, 1, action!
I think some of the effects are more complicated to achieve than others, and one that I actually think is one of the most effective in the sequence was what bit Blue Peter in a way. The paving slab was pre-broken and rigged, and just kind of a thin layer of dust laid across the top. We didn't want anything too solid to support that. So we just used the catering polystyrene coffee cup just to keep it together, and then we dropped a physical element of ice right onto that. It does feel like a sort of meteorite from space cracking into concrete, but it's quite simple.
625 take 1 guide track. A camera.
And playback and action! And action.
Stay there!
Where are you gonna go?
Shut up, shut up! She's got you thinking this is how you're supposed to be. Well, it's not!
Obviously, for the end of the series, we wanted to build to a big climax, and Harold Overman, the writer, had scripted this wonderful scene on top of the roof. Nathan gives a big impassioned speech about what it means to be young and growing up.
We're supposed to drink too much. We're supposed to have bad attitudes and shag each other's brains out. We were designed to party.
Inevitably, with big sequences, is that they're scripted and they're scripted fantastically, and then you take the script and you go to the location where you've got to film it, and you realise for a variety of reasons that it's completely impractical. The roof wasn't as high as it was written in the script, and there was nothing we could really do to change that. And so what we came up with was the idea that there was also railings by the side of the roof, and that way he would fall off the roof and onto the railings. And I particularly like this idea for a couple of reasons. One is because it's a very striking image to have someone impaled, and one of the lead characters to meet such a grisly death in a show like this, I think is really kind of, you don't see very often. But obviously you can't throw actors off the roof and kill them and impale them for real, so you have to work out what you can do and what you can't do. I wanted them to be on top of the roof for as much as possible, so that you could really get a sense of the height and see what was behind them, and a sense of the weather conditions. We built a very large platform with great big crash mats about 10 feet below, and so that would enable them to be right on the very edge of the roof through all the speech and through all the acting and all the drama.
Save me, Barry!
We were lucky that both Jessica and Robert were really up for doing the stunts themselves, and I think that kind of adds to selling the stunt. Even though they are perfectly safe, it still takes some guts, I think, to throw yourself off a building when you can see that either side of this platform is this huge drop to the concrete below.
Today I've had Robert and Jessica falling off the roof to their death, and they did really, really well. Rob ended up getting impaled on railings, and Jessica dies lying flat on the tarmac. So they fell from the actual rooftop, which will be about 30 feet high, and then we built the platform up, put crash mats, big pudding mats and crash mats on the top. They did really, really well. I built them up so it started on the ladder, first a few rungs and then more and more until they were going from the full height. And they loved it, they got their adrenaline flowing, and they wanted to do it over and over again.
That's in the bag.
It's quite scary. I did some practices and stuff before, but I think I got off quite lightly. I fell forward, whereas Robert's falling backwards, which I find a lot more intimidating. But I'm wearing very sensible shoes, heels. Not what you want to fall off thing on. It was like a bit slippy. Yeah, no, it was good.
I really wanted to chuck a camera off the roof. Producers didn't think this was such a good idea, because obviously you chuck a camera off the roof, you don't know what you're going to get, it could break, it could cost loads of money. Anyway, so what Chris Ross, the DP, came up with is there's a camera which I don't actually know the name of, but I think they used in the Second World War maybe. We put it in a great big foam ball, which was attached to a rope, a bungee, I guess, and just lobbed it off the building. It worked really nicely, and so what that meant was we had this shot that actually left the building. You could see the whole world spinning and land on the ground, or actually land on the railings, because the sponge ball impaled itself on the railings, which was great. And you have that cut in with the actual effect, with the actual actors falling off the roof, and so through them falling the first 10 feet, the shot you have of the camera falling off the roof, combined with the reaction of the people on the ground, I think really sells the stunt from the character falling off the roof to hitting the ground. And another thing that I really liked about the show is, with the death of Nathan at the end of episode 6 is that, of course, he discovers that his power is immortality. I think that what you get is the birth of a superhero, because he effectively comes back to life, and it's actually kind of fits in with some of the Christian iconography of being impaled and the crucifix and being buried and the rebirth, and I hope that it really delivers a big impact for the end of the series.
It was like, well, not a little adrenaline rush, quite a big adrenaline rush. To fall off a roof backwards, you know, into the trusty arms of Abby Collins, our stunt coordinator.
So we already knew that this day was going to be particularly challenging, and then when we turned up in the morning, it was absolutely pissing with rain, which was a bit of a nightmare actually in many different ways. Firstly, it meant that everyone was getting absolutely drenched, which is not the ideal condition to be working with. It was raining so hard that that they were writing on the clapperboard with their markers, and the rain was wiping what they'd written off, and so when we got the rushes in, it was a nightmare to sync up because you didn't know which piece of footage matched to which piece of sound, and the whole thing was was tricky to say the least. But on the plus side, and the silver linings of the cloud, was that, you know, I think it makes for quite an interesting, dramatic final sequence, and the fact that there is wind and rain really contributes to the atmosphere. I remember looking through the rushes, and you see it, and it doesn't actually look like it's raining that much in a lot of the footage because it's not backlit and you can't see it because of the light. And then the camera just pans over slightly, and you see the crew, and it's absolutely pouring off them, the woman with umbrellas and not looking very happy.